even like try doing the lot some of this live stuff just because it gives us a little bit more some of the gives you a little bit more generation of reach, which is but usually it's my my mom doesn't, but it's like people that we know are the ones that watch it.
And that's who you got to reach now.
Yeah. Yeah. Good. All right, guys, we are here with Emanuel from Tomo. We've been kind of working together. We just did a little bit of a presentation down for some realtors. And this is I'm always excited to talk about renovation lending among other things, but let's talk about, how you got in as as in lending, and give me a little bit of history, a little bit of background, and yeah, go from there.
Yeah, happy to do so. Happy to be here. This is actually my first podcast.
Love it.
So excited for this.
Yeah.
How I got into lending. I started off working for a hedge fund. It was the first job I had out of school. And was there for 5 years, got kind of tired of it and wanted to do something a little bit more, go to a smaller company. And I was always interested in real estate. And when I looked at some of the past financial decisions I made, one of the big ones that stood out to me was I got lucky and I bought a house in 2012, which was the bottom of the market, and interest rates are cheap.
Mm.
And that definitely changed the way that my life went because I saved a bunch of money on rent. I actually house hacked it before house hacking was cool. It was a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo, and bought it, rented out the other bedroom and bathroom for 5, 6 years until I upgraded. And I lived for nothing effectively.
I love that.
And that mattered.
Yeah.
So real estate always meant something to me. And getting into the industry, I wanted to do that for others. And the place I got into was more of the back end, financial products, capital markets, working with pricing structures and loan product creation, all the way up working with the agencies, Fannie and Freddie, to define some policy.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, so coming from the hedge fund where I learned how to take apart really complex financial systems, I wanted to get into mortgage and home ownership because that is another complex financial system. And if I do it right, I'm going to help out a bunch of people.
Mm-hmm. And honestly, that's a really good, it's a good answer because helping is it's such a big thing for new homeowners. The entire process, and it starts with you guys with what can I afford, what type of house, all of that stuff, and you need like somebody that wants first of all wants to help like yourself, like that's your first thing. So what and now was the next step. You're now at Tomo, right?
Yeah, so I'm at Tomo, mortgage company.
Yep.
It's relatively new, been around for about 3 years. And Tomo is looking to make mortgage easy and take the fear out of it. When
Mm-hmm.
people think about mortgages, there's always a sense of anxiety. It's not as fun as going to go see a house. What brought down the financial industry in 2008? Mortgages.
Mm-hmm.
A year ago, banks had too many mortgages on their books. It's kind of become a dirty word. So Tomo is there to make it easy. And we do that in a couple ways. So there's the technology we built. We have brilliant engineers and product people to make that application intake and processing quick. Excellent service. Tomo is a purchase-only company. So it's in our DNA to serve home buyers and their real estate agents. Tomo doesn't do any refinance. And then there's where I fit in, which is the financial product side. And I'm looking to create appropriate, accessible products to meet people sort of where they are in their life. And one of the things I really enjoyed about connecting with you is you actually did that. The reason why I'm here talking to you is I had this need putting together the renovation loan,
Mm-hmm.
and you kind of met me and our customers where we were trying to solve this budgeting thing that probably trips up 90%
Yeah.
of folks looking to do a renovation.
Yeah. Yeah, you're absolutely, and I like it because it is, the consultant side of things, bringing together, you know, having them understand, and that you're absolutely right. That's how we did connect, and I love the premise because somebody's buying a home, And it's just like, well, what does all this stuff cost? Does it make sense? I can see that it needs this. I can see that it needs that. And you know, there's so many unknowns for somebody that's new. Maybe it has never owned a home before, first time home buyer. There's so many, questions. And then what is the cost, mostly? And you're absolutely right. Mortgages, it's just like it's it's this big unknown, and education for clients is key.
The budgeting is really important. We'll do fully documented pre-approvals. Our loan officers are great about that. They spend their time coaching customers about how to fix your credit score, how much more income do you need, or how much debt to reduce to hit your number. That way, they're going in with certainty when they're making their offer. The agents are certain about that. The listing agents on the other side have that certainty as well. That's how we think mortgage should be done, is with service and certainty provided by that service.
And I like that too. That where it's hey, this is what you need to do if you want. Don't. It's not a no. We can't help you. But if you were to do X, Y, and Z, get your credit score up a bit, or you have more reserves, then you end up, you know, because we try to do the same thing. It's You don't really have a good enough budget to do the bathroom. Why don't you just wait? And then when you have that, then it makes sense to do and then you can do it right. Um, Instead of just being like, no, let's not do it. So it's good stuff.
We can just get into renovation lending right now. And it's like, that is the chicken and the egg problem that I was looking to solve, where you had the service that met me where I wanted to be, where I was. So the chicken and egg problem with renovation lending is a customer might want to buy a house, but they don't know how much it's going to take to fix that up. A contractor doesn't want to come out to the house unless it's certain,
Right.
under contract. So there's the chicken and egg problem. Somebody's got to move first.
Right.
And what we've put together at Tomo was a way to bridge that in doing a little bit of renovation consulting. So I've been around the block a few times. We can get into my personal story a little bit later. But if a customer or an agent has a property they're looking at, we'll suggest a couple things to do, put together a work write-up. And I called about 30 contractors across Connecticut. It's going to take us 6 weeks. It's going to be $2,000 for us to come out there. What you were able to do is take your experience and the data and look at what we're doing and look at our floor plans and give a ballpark. It doesn't need to be precise. Nobody was expecting that. But that service of giving the ballpark is really what I think is going to unlock this renovation product and make it more accessible for customers to take advantage of and get into the home that they can turn into the home of their dreams.
Right. Yeah, and it allows, I think, what we offer, unsecured financing, and we go into people's homes that want all this work done, but none of that makes sense. The renovation loan and buying it and going through that is such a good, before you move in, let's get the work done. Roll all of those costs into your mortgage. It's amortized out, for 30 years, where the monthly payment is low, and then make the home, what you really want. Make it your own. And you're absolutely. I've been a big component of the these loans for a long time, because I feel like it's a great way to get a lot of renovation done. But I like when you guys had come in and said, "Hey, let's put it in the listing. Let's do it up front," so that, because then people know about it. The client knows about it. They, you walk into the home. I like everything, but the kitchen. And then when you put it in the notes, hey, the kitchen is going to cost you 60 grand, and it's whatever, a couple $100 additional on your mortgage or whatever, it starts to really make sense for everybody.
It's the cheapest way to finance your home improvements by far.
Exactly.
Because we get to use the after renovation value
Right.
of the property.
Right.
If you buy a home and do a HELOC or second lien, they don't look at the after renovation value. As you mentioned, personal loans are 15%, and you have to pay them back in 10 years.
Right.
On the mortgage, it's the same as just a little bit higher. It's
Right.
about 6.875 right
Right.
now for 30 years, and the interest is tax deductible, just like
Right.
the rest of your mortgage payment.
Yeah.
So that's a slam dunk.
Yeah.
The renovation program, particularly in Connecticut, is important
Mhm.
because the housing stock is so old.
Yeah.
I think the national average is median housing age is like 40 years. Connecticut's older.
Mhm.
You can't just knock down a subdivision and put up new
Right.
housing.
Right.
It's all built up.
Right.
And the real problem that we at Tomo see as far as affordability goes is not rates. They should come down a little bit. It's
Mhm.
housing supply.
Yeah.
So this is one of the aspects of our lending programs that focuses on supply. So focusing on renovations, we work with builders. There's different community organizations building sustainable, affordable housing.
Mhm.
We love that stuff because that truly is the answer to the home ownership problem.
Yeah. Yeah. There's and I think people don't see that if the rates go down, it's actually going to even create more of a demand for the housing prices are probably going to continue to go up because there's such a high demand. And I think everybody's trying to figure out what's the solution to get more supply into the market, um, in every way possible. But like you said, at for 40 years is the average age of the home, and you're right. In Connecticut, it's there's a lot of houses built in 1920s,
Mm-hmm.
100 years. What do you do with them? Because no one has gutted them and completely renovated the whole thing. You're walking into some of these houses that, they maybe updated their kitchen a couple years ago, but the bathroom, the roof, the windows, the siding, the heating system is still old. So the renovation loan is a key. So why don't maybe just walk through what are the steps of what would be the steps of the renovation loan on your end?
Sure. So first is as a home buyer, work with one of our loan advisors.
Mm-hmm.
They're going to give you your pre-approval and your budget, and you don't get approved for a renovation loan. It's a conforming loan. We use the Freddie Mac Choice Renovation as our preference. You're going to get a budget, so you can use this budget to buy a house brand new, or you can use this budget to buy a house that needs some fixing, and the rest be for the renovation. That's how we think about it. So tomo.com/mortgage is our website. That's where you start. You'll work with the loan advisor. You're going to get your pre-approval amount. Then you can go out and go shopping with your real estate agent. And what I'd suggest to home buyers and real estate agents is keep an open mind. Don't filter out inventory because this renovation program unlocks hidden inventory. You could have a house that checks all of the boxes but one, and this is something that drives real estate agents nuts. Is they get this house would be great, but
Mm-hmm.
it needs an open kitchen. This house would be great, but the roof is leaking. The renovation loan is the solution to that. So show those homes.
Mm-hmm.
Once somebody finds a house that they want to do a renovation on, they can work with either me directly or the loan advisor, and we'll put together a rough plan and get it out for a ballpark estimate by you. And then if those numbers line up, the amount of money needed to get the home to where they want it to be, and whatever is left over in their pre-approval after they pay the seller for the house, then we have a deal.
Right. It helps a lot of, first-time home buyers are nervous about, well, I don't want to have to come into the home and do this, this, and this, and there's a lot of buyers out there that are just nervous. Oh, it's got an old heating system, or it's got, or I want that nice kitchen. I like to cook and I want an open floor plan. As a realtor, you're not going to have to, try to find that house for the client that's not even attainable. It's more be like, this is the neighborhood you like because you have kids. This is a good school system. It's the right size. It doesn't even really have to be the right size because we can do additions with this, with the loans. It just has to be the neighborhood you like is really the only thing that's, but even if it's not, we'll put a fence up, so.
I love that.
So yeah, it's that easy, and I think you put it. It's not a separate really loan. It's just whatever you're approved for the total. So if you're approved for 500,000, and you bought a house that was 300, you could use the 200. Am I right?
That's right.
For the renovation.
Mm-hmm.
So easy numbers. I mean, it's not a unique qualifying thing to use it, right?
Yeah, the way we go about it at Tomo, it just gives them the optionality. We have this program,
Mm-hmm.
get your pre-approval. If the perfect brand new turnkey house hits the market and you're lucky enough to win it, great. Use the same pre-approval.
Right.
There's nothing additional to do.
Right. I
And
love it.
this is a program where I eat my own cooking.
Mm-hmm.
So you said about first-time home buyers being nervous about it. I used this very same program, Choice Renovation, for the house that my wife and I live in, and now our 1-year-old son.
Okay.
And kind of just what you said, we found a house that was in a fantastic neighborhood in Norwalk, Connecticut, called Shorefront Park.
Mm-hmm.
It had everything we wanted. It was the right size. It was a 3-bed, 2-bath, small yard because I don't like mowing the lawn. My
Mm-hmm.
wife loves the water. 2 blocks away from the water, we go kayaking. And the outer loop of this neighborhood was actually on the water. It was big, big houses. This was a small one away from the water, but it was built in 1924. Some of it was updated since then, but there was 1924 plaster
Nice.
in that house. And my wife, my wife, my wife knew this was going to be our house. It was the only house we saw when we were looking. We knew we wanted this one. And I was working for a mortgage company at the time. I knew this product, fortunately. And we had a tough negotiation process. It was back and forth from starting in July of 2018. They accepted our offer finally in November 2018. But the seller said, you have to close the loan in 30 days.
Mm.
And one of those days is Veterans Day. One of those days is Thanksgiving. And I know a lot of folks and agents get a little bit nervous about renovation loans, thinking about the FHA 203K, which is kind of the granddaddy of all renovation products. The conforming ones that we use are far more streamlined. And while I don't recommend closing a renovation loan in 30 days, if somebody comes to Tomo and needs to do it, I will get it done
I
because I
love it.
did one myself.
I love it. I love it.
And it worked.
Yes.
So we redid the kitchen. We took down 2 walls, one structural, one non-structural, redid the kitchen, opened it up, refinished all the hardwood floors, repainted. And then upstairs, there was a tiny little bathroom, pedestal sink, small tub. We took out a linen closet and some of the closet of the second bedroom to be able to fit a double vanity in, and kind of swung the toilet and tub around. And now this is the house that we can be in for 2 kids.
Mm-hmm.
And we love it. It's going to be, at some point, we're going to have to leave it, which will be a sad day.
Yeah.
We're planning on having a family to outgrow it, but the house is exactly how we wanted it to be, and would not have had it without the renovation loan, would not have had it without the expertise being in a mortgage company. And that's what I'm trying to bring through Tomo is, here's all the things you can do and how we could structure loans and loan programs
Mm-hmm.
to get that person their house if they do need to close their renovation loan in 30 days.
And you're moving into a home that's yours, right? It's not somebody else's choice of the paint or the kitchen. It's your choice, and you can feel that. It's like you've it's really your home. I think the other side of it too that's really good is you probably were able to get a lot of the work done before you moved in, right?
We did.
Yeah.
We were 4 months out of it because
Mhm.
it was a lot of plaster.
Right.
That's hard to live around.
Mm-hmm.
Another great feature about the Choice Renovation program, I'm not sure if 203K does this, but it actually allows you to borrow some P&I payments, your principal and
Mhm.
interest.
Yeah.
So you can live somewhere else and cover your first 6 months of payments to the mortgage company, Tomo, as part of the renovation funds,
That's huge.
which means you're not paying out both
Yeah.
pockets.
It's such a peace of mind. I mean, I think, when we do a lot of renovations, and probably the biggest challenge for homeowners is just the disruption to their lives. Like if we're ripping out their kitchen, not having a kitchen for a period of time, the big, you were saying you had your floors refinished. That's a huge deal because, we're doing a bigger home in Burlington, and we're and this is a nice client. They have very nice things. We have to bring a moving company in to take their furniture and store it to then refinish the floors. It's hardwood throughout the whole house. The logistics of getting all of their we have to protect the furniture and move it out and put it in storage and then refinish the floors. It takes it only takes a week, but it's still, and then they can't live there because it's going to smell. And being able to have that done before you move in, same thing with the paint, like have it all done. It's gonna, and honestly, it ends up being cheaper if the painters don't have to, you know, protect all of your furniture. Um, so that's a key component too. Um, and I love that you could roll the mortgage into the loan, so you don't have to pay and give yourself that 6 months.
It really, that's one of the programs that I think is most appropriately designed, because those little things matter,
Mhm.
where you're not going to be putting stuff on a credit card
Right.
while you're out of your house renting somewhere
Mhm.
to get these renovations done.
Right.
It's all just in that package and
Right.
structured the way that people need to live their lives.
Right. And then it's done too. Liam, is that showing up? Do we want to just turn it off? Okay. Um, everybody goes into that house and is just like, "Oh, I'll do it in a couple of years. I'm gonna save them. We'll save the money."
Mhm.
You never save the money. Yeah, it's life happens, and honestly, go on vacation with the money. If don't save the money, go on vacation, roll the renovation into the home. I look at it as is like, you can now make that dream home. You're going to spend a little bit more for the home, but you're able to do it and make it your own, and in a quicker time frame than waiting for the perfect home. That's there. Um, so it is. I don't know. We can talk about this forever because
Probably can.
it
Yeah.
really is such the solution. I've always had a challenge though when we've talked about it is that real estate realtors tend to have had bad experiences, you know, with closing times, or I think contractors haven't done it justice or either.
Hmm. That's
You
true.
know.
There's a lot of people touching the loan.
Mm-hmm.
You have the home buyer, you have the mortgage company, and a lot of mortgage companies might offer it, but the loan officer needs to dust off the playbook
Right.
once a year, and that's not going to go well.
Yeah.
It's hard to have expertise in this particular area, and that's one of the things that I think we deliver very well, is expertise across a range of products.
Mm-hmm.
And then, as you mentioned, the contractor. Contractor is probably the most important person. And when you're looking at remodeling, and particularly with somebody that doesn't have experience doing that, going with a full service design build is kind of the only option
Mm-hmm.
to make it happen. Now, I went the opposite way because I had my own house before this. My wife and I had managed a couple of rentals, and my wife is pretty good at designing things. It's not her full-time job, but she just knows what she's doing.
Mm-hmm.
I would not recommend doing that. I wouldn't recommend just using a single operator contractor, no matter how good and honest they are, if you don't know how to manage schedules, order materials, make sure the materials are delivered,
Mm-hmm.
take measurements. Because if you use a one-person operator GC, even if he has the subs in, you're going to mess up all those things.
Yeah.
And it's going to cost more, and it's going to take longer. So whenever we have situations for the full-on remodel, you've got to go design build.
Yeah. And there's a bit of paperwork for you guys that needs to be, typically the average, GC or carpenter out there is good at what they do, and paperwork isn't something that's on the list of fun things to do.
Yeah.
So we do get called in usually when a contractor's kind of, bailed out, saying, I don't want to do this, because of the paperwork. But yeah, there is the logistics, and the other side of it is like if a lot of times there is the time frame, it's got to get done quicker, so we can't wait around. There's logistics that are fun, but I think we're done with the last year and a half, 2 years where the market's been so crazy. People are $100,000 over ask and this fast moving. I think we're done with that, hopefully, because it's just stressful. I mean, my wife's a realtor, and that was really stressful times because it was just like, and I don't know if a realtor were to come in and say, hey, this is going to be a renovation loan and I need 45 days or a couple more days to close, that in that market people would been that interested. But I think now we're kind of coming back to, you're going to get an accepted offer if you're running this.
Yeah, we've suggested to real estate agents to look at, if the home's been sitting for 30 days or more, there's not a lot of it, but it probably needs a renovation loan at that point.
Right.
So show it to your client. Stop getting offer fatigue, getting shut out by those 100,000 over asks.
Yeah.
Here's something tangible that your client can win. We'll get a little bit of pushback. Well, aren't renovation loans hard, as you said? It's also hard taking that client out to 10 more houses and losing 10 more offers.
Right. Yeah. And all of that time. And then again, a lot of times your client's not is going to be settling. So they're not going to get exactly what they want. And they might overpay it, and they've waived inspections and everything else, instead of, finding that one that has been sitting, and you might actually strike gold, because it might just need some basic stuff. And I know, being in construction for a while, we can fix anything. I don't care what it has. Crumbling foundations, we can. There's a fix for it. So that might be, you can, as a realtor, you can be the hero by say, this house they're actually going to take, you're not even going to compete in a bidding war. We're actually going to offer a little bit lower than ask, because here's the solution to fix it.
There's a back pocket option as well. So one of the ultimate deal killers in any sort of lending, buried oil tank. Have you run into those before?
Yeah, for sure.
Taking them out?
Yeah.
Have you done remediation?
The couple we've taken out they weren't leaking that much, so it wasn't.
We've seen them both ways, but everything's going fine until you find out there's a buried oil tank.
Yeah.
And then you need a renovation loan because the seller doesn't want to pay for it. The home buyer doesn't want to come out of pocket for it. So you can get a smaller amount, whatever it takes to pull it out, remediate, maybe you fix some other things. But it's going to get the deal closed and done because it's the only financing you could do. With us, the mortgage company, knowing first thing, we're going to take out that oil tank.
Right. So all the parties are I love solutions that's a win-win for everybody. If everybody on the table is winning, it's a good solution. And you guys as the mortgage know that the liability's off. That's getting removed. It's the oil is not going to leak into the well. And then obviously the seller is able to sell the property because the buyer now has enough money to do it. That's really usually what happens that makes real estate transactions stressful, is no one wants to pay for it. But if you're able to easily pay for it through financing, and whoever has that product in their back pocket is probably going to win the deal, because the rest of the offers that are on the house are going to walk.
Absolutely. They're going to win the deal. They can build their book of business based just on that.
Right.
I ran our real estate agent pretty hard when I did the 30-day close on the renovation loan, but eternally grateful to her. A lot of referrals her way.
Yeah.
This is something that real estate agents can get known for.
And I think their industry is reinventing. There's a lot of stuff in the news about that, and I think that real estate agents should try to look for these value add so that they can step outside of the herd and show, you know, show the value of what a good, and this is an added service, it's an added, benefit for their clients.
They could work on the listing side too. You mentioned one of the, the paperwork we exchanged.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're a real estate agent that's putting homes on the market that need a little bit of work, one of the things you could advertise to the seller to get that listing is you have this stable of renovation financing, and you could paint the picture to the prospective buyers what this could be. So now you're expanding your buyer pool as a seller, not just to cash buyers, the fix and flip guys that need to make some margin in their deal, but you might be able to get more people that are willing to pay up a little bit because they see this home as their forever home and their primary residence because of a seller's agent using the renovation product properly.
I love that because, you think about when you have something that just needs a bit of work, right? And maybe it has to be cash only or whatever. You are selling to an investor that has to make a good, it's their job. Like, they have to make money to feed their family. So there has to be a good chunk where they have to buy it for under market value for them to fix it up to then make that spread. So I love that because as a realtor, when you're going on that the sellers, as a seller agent, you're going in onto that interview. You can say, listen, I'm going to be able to get you more for the house. Mm-hmm. And again, yeah, it's a good tool for them, especially in this because there's not a lot of sellers right now. So
Exactly.
Realtors need to have every tool they can.
Yeah, we're back to that unlocking hidden inventory problem or creating new inventory problem. That's where mortgage companies really should be trying to insert themselves. I think a lot of mortgage companies do well as far as offering demand side subsidies. So down payment assistance. Connecticut has a great one. We offer it, but there's only so much you can do on demand side if there's no supply, if there's no affordable houses to buy.
Right.
And I'm a believer that there's no such thing as affordable lending. There's appropriate lending and there's affordable housing.
Right. That's a good way. Good way to put it. Yeah, there's a lot of things with the housing supply right now that it's interesting because there's a lot of factors, and I wonder how we, if we can, how long it's going to take. I don't think anything's going to change that much. I think what do you think is interest rates should come down, right? Or what do you think is this year? What does it look like?
This is always a fun exercise for me because I used to do this before I got into the mortgage industry. I do think interest rates are going to come down. I actually put out a weekly mortgage rate monitor on the Tomo.com blog, where I get to guess on what the path of interest rates are. And this is a relatively new thing, but I'm pretty sure next year we're going to look back and see how wrong I am.
Okay.
And we all can laugh about it.
Yeah.
So I write this blog every week. I put out our mortgage rates, what's going on in the economy, what I think interest rates are going to do. So I do think at the end of the year, we're going to wind up 30-year fixed at around 6.375 for what I consider a benchmark rate. We don't try to show teaser rates. This is no points, no fees. Somebody putting 5% down because that's what people do these days. Good credit, not great credit.
Yeah.
So I think that person is going to be 6.375, and it's going to be a gradual decline there. As the Fed, in order to do the soft landing that everybody's talking about, they have to start bringing rates down before things start to feel bad, before the economy slows, before unemployment ticks up too high. And right now, while things feel good, I think the consumer is pretty strained as the cost of everything's gone up. And if you're paying interest, you're paying more interest than you ever have in the past 25 years. Now, that said, I always think that the best time to buy a house is now. There isn't enough supply.
Right.
Prices tend to go up, especially if you're somebody looking to buy your primary residence and have an extended holding period. The price is pretty much going to go up. When rates started to go up 2020, 21, 22, I know a lot of people that put off the decision. I'm going to wait until rates go down. They haven't gone down, but that's besides the point. Home prices have gone up.
Right.
That decision to wait in a market like Connecticut where you have 10% home price appreciation each year, if you're buying a $400,000 house, you just lost yourself $40,000 by waiting a year.
Right.
So I'm a believer that if you can afford a home with a mortgage right now, you should buy now.
There's some, I forget, there's a little saying, but yeah, marry the house and date the rate. You can always
I like that one.
refinance. Yeah, you can always refinance. Thank you, Liam. You know, and so if you think rates are going to come down in the future, buy the house now, and then you can. But if they don't, at least you have the home.
If you can get, I call it getting on the housing ladder. If you can
Right.
get on the housing ladder now, build equity, get those tax deductions, get on it as soon as you can,
Right.
because there's very few times you're going to be wrong in that case if you're
Right.
buying primary residence and holding it for an extended amount of time.
Yeah. Some people have that they remember 2008 and it wiped out a good amount of equity. The reality is like it only took a couple years later that it was back. Like so that was, and I don't think that didn't at that time a lot of lending regulation come in.
There was a lot of irresponsible lending
Right.
happening back then. And there was a lot of supply. That was 2007 was the peak of when home builders were cranking out homes.
Yep.
And there was a lot of supply on the market. It's the opposite now. Depending on who you ask, we're anywhere between 2 million and 5 million units underbuilt across the whole country. The dynamics are way different. But even home prices do decline for a year or two, you're still building that equity. You're still paying down that principal. A chunk of that payment goes to yourself.
Yeah, no.
And it tends to turn around pretty quickly.
It does. It's interesting because a lot of people lost their shirt builder wise in that 2008, and they have not, and even nobody has started to build at that rate anymore, and we've been at such a deficit. That's crazy. The 2 million units. I know some in Connecticut they put out for affordable housing. It was like 90,000 units. We were in the deficit, and it's like people I don't think understand that just doesn't. We don't. There's builders are retiring because the average builder in the trades in their 60s. They're half the time in Florida at this point. They're not going to just, tomorrow flip the switch and start creating, 90,000 units on the side of the hill in Connecticut. I mean, there's just not enough space. There's not enough people doing it. I mean, we're trying. So, yeah, I think it's a good point. I mean, there's the units. I like the building equity too. I mean, you're paying your mortgage down each year too. You're building that.
There's a lot of these little perks that you don't really get by renting, and you don't really. Again, when I first got into housing, when I bought my first condo, I was in finance and kind of understood this stuff. I didn't completely understand it until I was on the other side, but I kind of understood it. So as a company, we're trying to help others understand these little pieces about how much more advantage you're going to be and how you could advance yourself and your family if you get on that housing ladder.
I like the housing ladder thing. I think that's a good
It's tough for some people.
Yeah.
One of the things that I love the slogan "Buy the house, date the rate."
Yeah.
Um, One of the things that I've heard a bunch in this higher rate environment that I actually do disagree with is mortgage rates have averaged 7%, or
Right.
1980 rates were 10%. I think that's going to miss a lot of the audience that you need to be reaching
Mm-hmm.
as a mortgage company, because two things have grown in appreciated a lot, faster than incomes. Home prices, probably the
Mm-hmm.
two biggest things
Yeah.
for people of our generation, the generation before that. Home prices have increased faster than incomes. College education has increased faster than incomes. I actually think college education has probably increased faster than home prices.
Right.
That's the one that's just been rip roaring straight beyond inflation, beyond incomes.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're somebody graduating college looking to buy a house, that 6% rate makes that a reach for a lot of folks.
Right. Because
And
you have the student loan that you're paying off.
because
Yeah.
that weighs you down on the debt side. You
Yeah.
can't afford the home because that's ripped past the way incomes have grown.
Yep.
So in this industry, you need to approach that with a little bit more empathy than saying, draw this straight line back through history. We're
Mm-hmm.
actually lower than average.
Yeah, I think that's a really good point because you have the older guys that are like, back in the 70s and 80s it was 18%, but your house was $12 or 12,000,
There you go.
but it was true though. It was like 40 grand for the
Yeah.
average, and now that exact house is like 400,000. So you are right, and I think another thing. Another solution to that I think they're coming up with, and we just did a couple. We've had some couple inquiries. Is these ADUs too that are interesting too? What are you seeing about them?
I love the idea. I actually know more about them in California than Connecticut.
Yeah, it's kind of
Uh,
where the trend starts.
Yeah, we lend out west too, and California's done some really great things with their state laws where they've allowed standalone ADUs,
Mm-hmm.
kind of like blanket zoning,
Yep.
as long as they have the proper setbacks.
Yep.
And you could lift the dang thing above the power lines if it's one of
Mm-hmm.
those modular ones. So we've done some of that, and you can fit it into the renovation program really well.
Okay, that's good to know.
What are you seeing in Connecticut as far
So,
as ADU goes?
so basically, Connecticut has passed a blanket. So the state comes out and says, okay, here's the guidance, and then we're asking, and Connecticut, I don't know how well they do this, but they ask all the towns to adhere to it. Well, a third of the towns said absolutely we're going to take it, and then the other 2/3 of the town said we'll take your guidance, but we want to adjust it a little bit, or we already have something similar, so we're gonna but that happened in what 2022, yeah. So so probably following California.
Yeah.
But what it does is that it kind of helps you. You normally would not get a separate residence through zoning in most towns. So the towns that have opted in, it's really easy, and the other ones are going to are following it.
What sort of interest are you seeing in ADUs now? What kind of people are looking for them?
Well, I think it's a good solution for, if it's the father and the mother, are moving out into the ADU and putting their kids into the existing home, or vice versa. It's just creating, to have somewhere for your kid to live, and there's some separation. That's been the biggest thing. Our biggest demand has been, hey, our parents, we need a place for our parents to go. Can we create something small in the backyard? That's what we've seen so far.
That's a really great solution to keeping your parents, whether it's whose house it was. If it was the parents' house originally, or your parents are leaving their house but just need a small flat area, don't want to go into assisted living, they have that.
Yeah. How does it work with financing though?
It falls under the guidelines of the renovation program.
Okay.
So if somebody has a house and wants to refinance it, they can roll the ADU
Mhm.
looking at the after renovation value of the home and the ADU. Now, we have to make sure the appraiser understands that because it's new in Connecticut.
Yeah.
It's new in California, and we still are working through a lot of appraisal questions
Mhm.
to make sure the after renovation value comes in appropriately. But it follows the same principles as we can lend on 95% of the home as it is now, plus the renovation
Mhm.
costs.
And that's huge because I think just to touch what you talked about before was, you know, this home equity, line of credit or all of that stuff. It's what the equity is. It's not the future equity. So a lot of people get, people call and say, "Hey, well, I've got a HELOC or something." And you're like, "Well, that's probably not going to be enough. Like you're putting in a substantial amount. Like you need something that's figuring out what's the future value, not what it is." Um, so yeah, that is a key thing for the client to understand.
And at the end of the day, an ADU is another housing unit.
Right.
It helps.
Yeah.
It's part of the solution.
Yeah. And I think that's why it's opening up because it's just they're realizing they need to figure out multiple ways to this for a solution. Um, some of the towns are holding off because they want to keep this the aesthetics, but I mean you've got to they got to open it up. Um,
And there are nice models out there.
it really is.
Uh, you probably site build
Mm-hmm.
the ADUs. So when I'm looking on the West Coast, a lot of the ADUs are modular,
Mm-hmm.
so they'll roll in containers, but aesthetically, very, very nice.
Yeah.
The West Coast has a different aesthetic than the East Coast. I'm sure you build them to match the
Yeah.
style that you see in the house in the neighborhood. West Coast can go a little bit more modern.
Mm-hmm.
You
Do
can
some
have a
shipping containers or
yeah,
something. Yeah.
you could have a flat roof because there's no snow.
Yeah.
So you see a lot of those out there.
Yeah.
But they're all beautiful and tastefully done.
Mm-hmm. And that's a good point. Like, so we've actually been looking into the modular to try to get the price down. So, because it'd be nice to kind of and the speed of production, and modular in the way we use modular works, but it's not as easy as when you're in a warmer climate because we have to figure out we have to have some sort of a basement because we're bringing in water that's going to freeze. You can't just run, you know, and then there's the waste lines can't freeze. So a lot of things have to be dug and excavated, and we can't just kind of put a trailer or some sort of that doesn't have a foundation or just drop stuff on there. So it's a little bit more challenging here, but we're trying to figure that out because it if modular something that's just done in a factory can be done more efficiently, sometimes even and honestly better because it's quality the quality control, but the climate control. You don't have somebody, we're on a nice day right now, but when our guys are out in the field and it's snowing and it's raining and you're cold and you're tired, like it's the quality isn't sometimes can be missing. Um, so yeah, I mean, ADUs is going to be. I think we're going to see more once people realize to get out there. So what would they have a house? They're going to call you, and then it's the same process. Like just
It is. ADU is the same as doing a kitchen as far as what we need, as far as putting together a plan and a budget. You need that level of detail.
Yeah.
The draws will work the same way.
Mm-hmm.
The money goes into an escrow account and you draw down on it.
Right.
We run into a little bit of difficulty with modular because it's done off site.
Yeah.
And as you know, the way these programs all work, whether it's a choice renovation or an FHA 203K, there's site inspections.
Mm-hmm.
So that's one of the things that I'm working through with some of the agency folks right now is you have this great way to finance renovations
Mm-hmm.
and this great way to finance ADUs. Freddie Mac is actually going as far to saying that you could count the income stream from ADUs on your home towards qualification,
Nice.
which is a great thing. Uh, the cheaper way to create an ADU is off-site construction, but where are the draws?
Mm-hmm.
So we're trying to come up with a
Right.
solution to that nub, to yet again make a more appropriate product to meet people where they are.
And I'm just, I'm thinking as we're talking here, like you go, you find the house, maybe it's not big enough, or just find the house and think about, hey, I'd like to maybe even be a landlord, right? You can roll it and maybe put an ADU in, as you buy it, put that separate house. Or maybe it's just, you were thinking, oh, I'm going to have mom and dad come live with me. I need a bigger house. Maybe you just get a medium-sized house and then you roll it in for the ADU to be put in afterwards.
It's a lot of potential. And then there's also, you could just do a walkout basement. You can convert that. It doesn't need to be a standalone unit.
Mm-hmm.
If you just want to get the permits and the zoning done where you can convert bonus room above the garage to an EDU, walkout basement to an
Right.
EDU.
Do an addition to the home,
Yep.
whatever. It doesn't have, you don't have to have, it's a little bit easier if it is attached to the house just because we can tie into the existing utilities a little bit easier than, trenching out water and waste lines and stuff. That's what it is, I think finding the solutions for the problem, and tailoring that is it's fun. It's rewarding, to be able to come to the client and say, hey, here's your solution. It's interesting.
And as market gets tighter, there's less inventory, rates are high. You can't be doing the same thing,
Right.
same playbook you've been running the past 30 years. You got to skate to where the puck is going to be,
Yep.
not to where the puck is.
Yeah, that's good. I like it. So what do you think is what do you think most people don't know about, mortgage lending and what you do? What is your, the people that are the most surprised?
Yeah. Very few people know what I do.
Mm-hmm.
So I tend to be behind this. I'm a backroom kind of person in the mortgage company. Not a loan officer. Don't interact with clients. I'll go on the field a little bit to talk with folks like you. I'll talk to real estate agents to understand what the pain points are and what sort of financial product solutions they need. But because I am more of a back of the house person, very few people do know what I do. I think very few people know that a mortgage company has a capital markets operation within it. There's real risk that we're managing as far as credit risk, so lending, but also all of the fluctuations of the interest rates every day. It's my responsibility to hedge that and protect the customer. Whenever you get a loan, you talk about locking your rate. What that means to me is you don't have interest rate risk. You know what your rate is. I do now. So I got to do something with that. So there are trading desk operations within mortgage companies. There are more sophisticated modeling techniques that we use to manage that risk. So while we didn't use or trade mortgages at the hedge fund I was at, a lot of those concepts of finance still apply to the mortgage industry. A lot of the finance guys that I hang out with think that it doesn't, that doesn't exist in a lender, but it does.
Right. It's interesting because I think, most people are just, they think, oh, the big banks and, that's, they're crazy. They got all the money and it's just a business too that can fail and not, and you guys are there mitigating because you have to compensate for all the people that is going to go into foreclosure and all of that stuff. Like there's a lot to it that, or like what you said, you've given them a rate and your rate just adjusted, and it can't be, it can't, it's interesting stuff. So anything else? I mean, that was a quick hour. What anything else you want to tell the listeners of that they would normally not know, or about what you think of the future is looking like.
Let's see if there's any other inside baseball I want to talk about.
Yeah.
Okay, I got one last one.
All right, love
This
it.
is gonna get deep and kind of financial crunchy. Another reason why you should buy a home now, or just buy a home, is if you look across the spectrum of all the ways you could finance things, all the debt available, a mortgage is the best deal possible. It's almost unfair to the person lending to you how good it is. 30 years fixed. Nothing exists 30 years fixed, because that's a lot of interest rate fluctuations for 30 years that somebody else is going to have to manage. But a customer doesn't need to worry about that. You can borrow 20 to 1 or more. You can put 5% down in nearly all cases for a conventional loan. First-time home buyer, 3%. That amount of leverage also doesn't exist anywhere else.
Yeah.
And if housing wasn't so stable, that would be a real problem. And the final thing, again, going deep into my financial crunchiness, is you have all these perks, and probably a lot of the folks that we're speaking to might be on Robinhood and know what I'm talking about. If the home price goes down, you don't need to post up margin. So when you borrow money against the thing, if you borrow money against the stock on Robinhood and you're wrong and it goes down, you have to put up cash. You don't have to do that with a mortgage.
Right.
So you can ride out those low points without having to pay anything out of pocket. And you'll come out ahead if you hold it for an extended amount of time. There's nothing else like it in the lending universe. And as a consumer, you really should be taking advantage of that.
I love it. I think that's a great way to end. I think what you're kind of saying is go buy a house, get a mortgage, call Emanuel.
If you can afford it
Yeah.
responsibly, call. You can call me and I'll send you to a loan advisor.
Yeah.
At Tomo, but go to tomo.com.
Yeah. Love it. Awesome. Manuel, I appreciate the insight and being on, and I'm excited for what we're doing with helping realtors out and the listings and doing all that stuff. So here's to a big 2024 and doing a lot of business together.
Absolutely. Thanks, Dave.